Welcome to the Improve and Have Fun podcast. My name is Paul V. Perez, and on this podcast, I work on improving myself while having fun along the way with the hopes of encouraging you to do the same. And I do so by documenting my life and interests. These are some of my takeaways from Brian Weiss's book, Many Lives, Many Masters, the true story of a prominent psychiatrist, his young patient, and the past life therapy that changed both their lives. I read this book while I was on this period of time where I was reading a lot of spiritual books. And I'm getting to the tail end of it because the last few books have all been about the same kind of area. Like I said, these spiritual books, Siddhartha being one of them, the Celestine Prophecy was another, and this book as well, Many Lives, Many Masters. Once again, I found this book the same way I found those last two books I mentioned, through a Google search, which I just put in best spiritual books, and this was one of the books that popped up. Now, let me give you the Amazon synopsis of this book so you can know what this book is about. From author and psychotherapist Dr. Brian Weiss comes the classic bestseller on the true case of the past life therapy that changed the lives of both the prominent psychiatrist and young patient involved, now featuring a new afterword by the author. As a traditional psychotherapist, Dr. Brian Weiss was astonished and skeptical when one of his patients began recalling past life traumas that seemed to hold the key to her recurring nightmares and anxiety attacks. His skepticism was eroded, however, when she began to channel messages from space between lives, which contained remarkable revelations about Dr. Weiss's family and his dead son. Using past life therapy, he was able to cure the patient and embark on a new, more meaningful phase of his own career. With more than 1 million copies in print, Many Lives, Many Masters is one of the breakthrough texts in alternate psychotherapy and remains as provocative and timeless as when first published. So with that synopsis, this thing sounds almost like a movie. This psychiatrist has a patient where she starts to talk about past lives and then goes into the doctor's past lives and talks about his dead son. So like I said, it sounds really fantastical, but I read the book, I really enjoyed it, and I'm going to give you a few of my highlights, a few of my takeaways from that book. And I want to do so by reading you some quotes from the book. The first quote is on page 46. I sometimes think to myself, like, what is my purpose? Or what is my reason for living? Why am I here on this planet? I personally don't want to really have children. But then you think, like, if you don't put your seed into the world to continue kind of your legacy, what will? And, I put out all this podcast and video content, but I mean, nobody's going to remember any of it, like, after I'm dead and gone. It'll just, go into the ethos, right? Wherever that is. Or maybe in my life, I actually, from all this content, put out one thing that sticks with people forever. And that will be amazing, right? That will be my legacy. But one of the quotes plays to that, and that's the quote that I'm going to read to you now. Once again, this is on page 46. And the quote is, "Our task is to learn, to become godlike through knowledge. We know so little. You are here to be my teacher. I have so much to learn. By knowledge, we approach God, and then we can rest. Then we come back to teach and help others." And I think that's really great there. Basically, I'm learning all this stuff, and it's one of the reasons why I even do this podcast. I do it because it's fun, but this is kind of my what I'm giving back to the world. Like, I'm learning all these things. I get so excited about learning these things, and then I want to go ahead and share it with you, the listener or the viewer. And that's the first quote there. This is a quick one, and I really learned this from Tony Robbins, but then when I read the book, The Go-Giver, which is another book I did the biggest takeaways on, it always talks about being a giver, giving. By giving, you end up surrounding yourself with the universe always giving back to you in some way, shape, or form, to you, to your family. So kind of giving unselfishly, and then when the universe is always going to be, you're putting the opposite of scarcity around you. You're putting abundance around you by always giving, because you just, like I said, making the universe always give back to you. And this quote here says, "The reward is in doing, but doing without expecting anything, doing unselfishly." And that is a quote that plays to to that, definitely. This next quote here is on page 50, and it says, "We also must learn not to just go to those people whose vibrations are the same as ours. It is normal to feel drawn to somebody who is on the same level that you are. But this is wrong. You must also go to those people whose vibrations are wrong with yours. This is the importance in helping these people." I don't know if I fully agree with that one, but it's still very interesting. Sometimes you can't change people. People are going to be the way they're going to be, but sometimes by going maybe to a person that rubs you the wrong way, it's a reflection on yourself, on like, this person rubs me the wrong way. Why? Is it something that I do that they do that I've done before, that when they do it, it kind of reminds me of that? It could be, like I said, a reflection thing, right? Let's go on to the next quote here. This is on page 52, and that is, "Everybody's path is basically the same. We all must learn certain attitudes while we're in physical state. Some of us are quicker to accept them than others. Charity, hope, faith, love. We must all know these things and know them well. It's not just one hope and one faith and one love. So many things feed into each one of these. There are so many ways to demonstrate them, and yet we've only tapped into a little bit of each one." Interesting. This next quote is on page 112, and it goes, "Patience and timing, everything comes when it must come. A life cannot be rushed, cannot be worked on a schedule as so many people want it to be. We must accept what comes to us at a given time and not ask for more. But life is endless, so we never die. We were never really born. We just pass through different phases. There is no end. Humans have many dimensions, but time is not as we see time, but rather in lessons that are learned." Wow, I like that one a lot, actually. And I'm going to go ahead and end this biggest takeaways segment on this final quote. If this book interests you, I'm going to go ahead and leave an affiliate link in the show notes for this episode, or in, like, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to go ahead and leave it in the description for the video. And once again, these are my biggest takeaways from Many Lives, Many Masters by Dr. Brian L. Weiss. Thoughts, comments, please do so below if you're watching this on YouTube, or on the blog at improveandhavefun.com. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I will catch you on the next one.